Grandma, dinner's ready. Thanks, Tyler. I said that as I bit into the raw carrot in front of me. I hadn't eaten anything since the morning, so whether it was raw or not didn't matter to me. If I could survive the day, that was enough for me. There's one more, I'll go get it. My grandson, Tyler, said as he hurried to the kitchen. He then took another carrot from the vegetable drawer and placed it on the plate. That's when my husband, who had been away on business, came home. Hi, Grandpa. You were home early, it's not even night yet. Were you surprised? I wanted to see everyone so much, I took the first train back this morning. Tyler, you're doing great. Is that for your rabbit? No, this is just Grandma's usual meal. What? What are you saying? Following Tyler into my room, my husband exclaimed, "Kay? What are you eating?" He was instantly shocked at the sight of me gobbling down raw carrot. Rushing over, he hugged me tight. Robert! Is it really you? Of course it is, Kay. You've lost so much weight, what happened? While confused, Robert gently stroked my gaunt back. Robert! I've... My long-suppressed emotions came flooding back, and tears poured from my eyes like a flood. I am Kay, soon to be 60, a full-time housewife. This is a story from when I was 55. I have a husband, Robert, who is 2 years older than me, and a son, Alex. At our workplaces, we knew each other. My husband's company was one of the clients of the company where I worked, and he was the salesperson in charge. Back then, my job mostly involved odd jobs and serving coffee to visitors and male employees. I knew him by face and name, but we rarely spoke. That changed about 6 months after I joined the company. On one such day, as he came for sales as usual, he approached me at lunchtime. Would you like to go to lunch with me? Surprised by the sudden invitation, I was speechless for a while. Oh, I'm sorry I surprised you so suddenly. As he apologized looking embarrassed, I hurriedly said to him. Please don't apologize, I didn't expect you to ask me out. May I join you for lunch? I still clearly remember how happy he looked then, even after more than 30 years. And I, who had never been approached by a man before, was also ecstatic, a feeling I still haven't forgotten. After being asked out for lunch several times, we started seeing each other on weekends, and we officially started dating on Valentine's Day night. A year later, on Valentine's Day, he proposed to me, and we got married. Upon marriage, I quit my job and soon got pregnant with our son, Alex. Then my husband said, to make sure Kay can raise our child with peace of mind, I think we should buy a house, and he suggested buying a new house. I was thrilled with the idea of our dream home, but I was also worried that the mortgage would be too much for our single-income family. When I expressed this concern to him, he said, thinking of the home where Kay and Alex are waiting gives me the strength to work hard. Even if it means more business trips and single assignments. 6 months later, we bought the house we live in now with a 35-year mortgage. Since then, he spent half of each year on business trips. Every few years, he would be on a single assignment for up to 2 years. Although we had very little time together as a couple, the regular calls from him kept my anxiety and loneliness at bay. And the same was true for our son, Alex. No matter how tired he was, he always made time to talk to Alex on the phone. Sometimes, he would fall asleep during the calls, but Alex never got angry. Instead, he was always concerned, saying, I'm worried Dad will catch a cold. How should I wake him up in the morning? It seems that Alex was just happy that his father cared enough to call him. Blessed with a thoughtful husband and a kind son, my marriage had always been smooth sailing. Such a peaceful life changed when Alex brought his fiancée, Violet, saying, I want to introduce you to someone. Violet was a year younger than Alex and worked at the same company as him. My first impression of her was that she was cool and solid. But once she smiled, she immediately became gentle and calm, and I thought Alex must have been attracted to that about her. Soon after they married, the two started living in an apartment near our home. A year later, my grandson Tyler was born. Upon Tyler's birth, Violet left her job to become a homemaker like myself. Now the sole breadwinner, Alex, like his father, began taking more business trips and solo assignments. working diligently for the future of his family. Violet, in turn, also strove to meet Alex's efforts by managing the household and childcare alone. However, Tyler was a child who cried a lot at night. And Violet shared that caring for him alone while Alex was away was a constant battle against sleep deprivation and fatigue. Since Alex had been an easy sleeper as a baby, I honestly couldn't quite grasp the extent of Violet's difficulties. At that time, all I could do was my sympathy, saying, "That sounds tough." I also thought naively, things would get easier once he went to the preschool, so I didn't take it too seriously. However, even after going to the preschool, Tyler was so frail that he missed school due to illness for half the month. The endless cycle of household chores, childcare, and nursing left Violet completely worn out. As a result, Alex increasingly felt anxious about leaving frail Tyler and exhausted Violet behind for his work assignments. One day, when Tyler was 5, Alex called me and said that he was set for another 2-year assignment. Tyler is still very frail. Violet also looks tired all the time, so I'm kind of worried about them. Dad is often away from home for work, just like me. So I'd like to take this opportunity to move in together. I wouldn't mind it, but what about Violet? Isn't she reluctant to live with her mother-in-law? Violet agrees as well, as long as you guys are okay with it. Can you talk to Dad about it later? That night, when I discussed the idea of living together with my husband, he said, "That would be great. Actually, I've been a bit worried about leaving you alone. Remember your hospital stay?" Indeed, about 6 months prior, I had been hospitalized due to food poisoning. I was only admitted for a day for rehydration, but since then, my husband had become very anxious. Violet is reliable, so I feel I can trust her with anything that might happen. Thus, without any hesitation, we easily agreed to live together. A month after finalizing our plans, Alex's family broke their apartment lease and moved into our home. "We look forward to living with you starting today. We welcome you all so much. From today on, this is your home too, so don't hesitate to tell us if you need anything. Thank you very much." Despite there being no hard feelings, the atmosphere between me and Violet, who had only ever spent time together during holidays, was still a bit awkward. Thankfully, with my husband and Alex helping to mediate, we managed to find a comfortable distance from each other. After spending a few days together as a family, my husband and Alex left for their usual 2-year assignment as planned. Now, it was truly just the 3 of us living together. Violet and I decided to divide up the chores. I took on cleaning, laundry, and dishwashing. Violet handled meal preparation, shopping, and general care of Tyler. Of course, we agreed that whoever was available would flexibly handle any other household tasks or step in when the other couldn't manage. Yet Violet was truly a great daughter-in-law. She often finished even the chores I was responsible for, saying, "I had some free time, so I finished them up." Even when Tyler was ill and bedridden, Violet never neglected her assigned household duties. After Alex had moved out for work, living almost like a single person, I mentally prepared myself, thinking, living with 3 people means triple the housework, right? I need to buckle down. However, once we started living together, Violet completed most of the household chores, allowing me to continue my relaxed daily life. You are truly an exemplary daughter-in-law. Thank you for choosing Alex. It's nothing. We're living together, so it's not a big deal. At that time, I truly felt grateful to Violet from the bottom of my heart, considering myself very fortunate. But this happiness didn't last long. About 3.5 months into our life together, Violet's behavior began to change dramatically. She was constantly checking her phone during meals and conversations, unable to settle down. Furthermore, the shopping trips she used to enjoy with Tyler on weekends completely stopped, and she would go out alone for hours and not return. Moreover, when housework was delayed or took longer than expected, she began to speak in a harsh tone, saying, "I don't have time. Please do it later." I was confused by Violet's drastic change and tried to understand why she had become like this. However, no matter how much I thought about it, I could only think that maybe she was overwhelmed with too much responsibility and stress. Thus, I decided to openly share my honest feelings with her. "Violet, I'm sorry if I've been relying too much on you for the housework. From now on, I'll take on more, so why don't you take a break? I intended to show as much consideration as possible, but Violet's response was a nonchalant, "What? Oh, I'm fine, really. Don't worry about me." Wondering if I had said something inappropriate, I continued to ask her if she was really okay, and if there was anything she wanted to discuss. But our conversations dwindled, and eventually, she began to ignore me completely. Moreover, Violet took over all the household chores, insisting, "Please don't touch anything." But the reason she gave was unreasonable. When you touch things, they end up smelling old, which is bothersome. She also completely ignored my meals and laundry. I had no choice but to try to cook it myself. However, Violet was furious with me and wouldn't let me use the kitchen, saying, "I told you not to touch anything." In the end, I had to buy food from supermarkets or convenience stores and eat alone. As for laundry, I had to secretly wash it while Violet was out and dry it in my room or use a laundromat. Furthermore, I needed Violet's permission to even talk to or interact with Tyler. The relationship had become so strained it hardly felt like family anymore, and it was wearing me down. The only way to change the current situation was still to discuss it. However, whenever I tried to speak to Violet, she would either ignore me or become furious. Determined to break through, I addressed her more firmly than usual despite her continued indifference. "Violet, if you don't talk, I won't know what's going on. Please, talk to me more." Unexpectedly, this approach led to a shocking outcome. "Shut up. I told you to be quiet, so just be quiet." With that, Violet suddenly slapped me across the face. I was prepared for insults and shouting, but I had never expected her to actually hit me. Shocked, I was frozen in place. Violet herself seemed very surprised by her action, but ultimately, I remained silent. This incident unfortunately worsened her behavior towards me even further. Initially, I wondered why Violet had changed so drastically. The reason was her affair. Violet's affair was with a college classmate, who was also married. About a year before we started living together, they met again at a college club reunion. Finding common ground in both having families, they exchanged contact details under the guise of being each other's confidant. Exhausted from caring for Tyler and overwhelmed by single parenting, Violet quickly became engrossed in her interactions with her affair partner. Before long, their relationship developed into a romantic one. During her apartment life, Violet neglected household duties to go on dates with her lover. Whenever the house was a mess, she excused it by claiming, "Tyler got sick again, and I couldn't keep up with the housework," and Alex, often away on business trips or solo assignments, didn't suspect anything. Given that Alex was often away on business or on solo assignments, it was impossible for him to fully grasp the day-to-day activities at home. Therefore, he simply believed everything Violet told him. This affair lifestyle took a sudden turn shortly after we began living together. Initially, Violet thought, as long as I act like a good daughter-in-law while we're living together, I can continue the affair as before. Thus, she actively managed my share of the household duties and started to play the part of the good daughter-in-law. However, suddenly taking on all the household chores she had previously neglected for the sake of her affair proved to be a significant burden. Gradually, Violet became overwhelmed with chores, making it difficult to find time for her lover. As a result, her lover's attitude turned cold, and he began to decline her invitations for dates. Her frustration and irritation from this situation were then misdirected at me. At that time, unaware of the situation, I continued to reflect on my own words and actions, constantly seeking ways to connect with Violet. Unfortunately, I kept offering words of concern that were, unbeknownst to me, misplaced. For Violet, who was struggling with her relationship with her affair partner, my attempts to help only seemed like unnecessary meddling. Undoubtedly, Violet must have been thinking, "Just leave me alone." Violet, wanting nothing to do with me, and I, desperately trying to connect with her. In such a mismatched relationship with me, Violet's frustration likely escalated further. Ultimately, this tension led to the point where she slapped me, a situation I inadvertently provoked by pushing for interaction. Violet began to harass me under the guise of a discipline following this incident. "It's your fault I have to dispose of the lunch waste, so as punishment, you're banned from shopping and going out," she declared. Then, she hid my wallet and shoes somewhere. She started giving me excess raw vegetables from the fridge and leftovers from my grandson's meals as a substitute for meals. She even prohibited me from taking baths. As a result, my body odor became stronger. Then, wearing a mask and gloves deliberately, Violet would burst into my room, exclaiming, "You stink," and push me into the bathroom to wash myself in a bathtub filled only with cold water. The gas was turned off, so I couldn't even use hot water. She handed me a ragged towel resembling an old rag, and after bathing, I was sent back to my room with wet hair. Fortunately, it wasn't winter, so I didn't catch a cold, but my body was completely chilled. This forced water bathing continued daily until Violet was satisfied. "I can't take this anymore. I'll collapse if this goes on." One day, feeling my life was in danger, I tried to reach my husband and Alex while Violet wasn't watching. Unfortunately, she caught me in the act, and my smartphone was confiscated. Moreover, as part of the discipline, I was forbidden from leaving my room. Violet changed my smartphone's password without my permission, ensuring I couldn't call for help. She even impersonated me in replying to messages from my husband or Alex, who occasionally contacted me. However, she couldn't impersonate me during phone calls. On these occasions, she would listen intently to make sure nothing suspicious was said. "How's it going? Are you getting along with Violet?" "Yes, of course. Violet is really a wonderful daughter-in-law. So, no need to worry." Desperately resisting the urge to shout, "Help me," I continued to deceive Robert and Alex. As this life continued, the feeling of deceiving my family faded, as did my desire to be rescued. I became solely focused on surviving each day. Eventually, I began to believe that it was my fault I had ended up in this situation. It's karma. Violet disciplining me is my own doing. After 3 months of such brainwashing, it was time for summer vacations. Even when I heard from Violet that Robert and Alex were coming home, I felt nothing about it. So, they're coming back. You know what, just make sure you don't do or say anything unnecessary. Saying hi to them, then stay in your room, okay? Yes, I understand. I'm sick of summer vacation being a hassle. Anyway, I'm off to do some grocery shopping for dinner. Violet complained as she left to prepare for the evening meal for Robert and Alex. At that time, I followed her instructions and stayed confined to my room. I'm so hungry. Glancing at the clock, it was nearly noon. Like usual, I hadn't received breakfast, so I anxiously awaited the meal Tyler would bring me. "Grandma, it's time to eat," Tyler called. "Thank you, Tyler," I replied as I bit eagerly into the raw carrot he placed before me. With each bite, a crunching sound echoed in my mouth, tasting only bitterness and astringency. Yet, it was still far better than having nothing at all. "There's one more left, I'll go get it," Tyler said as he dashed back to the kitchen. He then took another carrot from the vegetable drawer and placed it on the plate. Just then, my husband returned home unexpectedly. "Hi, Grandpa! You were home early, it's not even night yet." "Were you surprised?" "I wanted to see everyone so badly I took the first train back. But look at Tyler, doing such a great job. Is this for your rabbit?" "Not for my rabbit. It's just Grandma's usual meal." "What? What are you talking about?" Following Tyler, Robert hesitantly opened the door to my room. "Kay, what are you eating?" Seeing me gobbling down raw carrot, his face expression froze in shock. He rushed over and hugged me tight. "Robert! Is it really you?" "Of course." "Kay, you've lost so much weight, what happened?" While confused, Robert gently stroked my emaciated back. "Robert! I have to tell you." My suppressed emotions suddenly returned, and tears flooded from my eyes. Through my sobs, I told him about Violet's discipline. Shocked by the inhumane details, he was speechless. After I finished, he exploded, "Such things are unforgivable," and vowed, "She will be punished." Then, turning to Tyler who was nearby, he said, "Listen, Tyler. Grandpa is going to give Mommy a surprise. So you shouldn't tell her that Grandpa is back, okay? Can you keep that secret?" "A surprise?" "Yeah, I got it." "I won't tell Mom," Tyler replied before heading back to the living room to continue watching TV. Meanwhile, Robert stashed all his bags into the closet, took out his phone, and waited inside for Violet's return. Minutes later, with heavy footsteps, she came home. She roughly placed the shopping bags in the kitchen, ignored Tyler, and rushed straight to my room. Damn it! Why haven't I received a reply? I'm so frustrated, she exclaimed as she began throwing cushions on the floor at me. It's all your fault. Why did you agree to live together? Normal people would say no. You're so selfish. Take responsibility, she yelled furiously. As usual, I sat quietly, enduring the barrage. I knew if I remained silent, Violet would eventually get tired and leave the room. But today, Violet was different. I'm really having to take care of them for a week on top of it all. Your husband and son, right? Turn them away or do something. You worthless piece of shit, Violet exclaimed as she grabbed a cloth hanger nearby. She raised it, aiming to strike my head with force. Overcome with fear, I instinctively ducked. In the next moment, a loud voice shouted, "Stop," and Robert burst out from the closet. Wait, what? Robert, why? He rushed to my side, shielding me while glaring fiercely at Violet. In a tone I had never heard him use before, he demanded, "Violet, what is going on here?" This is, so, I'm a little frustrated, she stammered, quickly hiding the cloth hanger behind her back. So you think it's okay to throw things because you're frustrated? He asked pointedly. She looked away, her eyes darting around. Well, it slipped out of my hand. Or rather, it just happened, it was an accident. So, basically. Her excuses left Robert exasperated, and he sighed in disbelief. Right then, he called the police. When the police arrived, he presented the videos he had secretly recorded of the discipline as evidence. As a result, Violet was arrested on the spot for suspected domestic violence. Silently, Violet got into the police car. But for a moment, she looked back, her eyes filled with hatred and bloodshot. Watching her, I felt a deep chill. Her face seemed almost demonic. How could someone who was such a good daughter-in-law turn out like this? At that time, unaware of the affair, my mind was filled with questions and regrets. As the police car disappeared, Robert sighed heavily and then made a phone call. Hello? Alex, where are you right now? The person on the other end of the phone was our son, Alex. Now? I'm about to switch trains. Is everything okay? Violet has just been arrested for domestic violence. Grab a taxi or anything, but come home as soon as possible. Domestic violence? Arrested? What? I'm not following you. Alex through the phone sounded clearly confused. Anyone would be if they were told their spouse had been arrested. To Alex, Robert firmly said, "I'll explain everything when you get back. Just hurry home," before abruptly hanging up. A little while later, Alex arrived home, his face pale with shock. Violet! Hey, Violet! Mom, where's Violet? Seemingly panicked, Alex frantically searched the house, calling out for Violet. To him, Robert calmly said, "Violet isn't here." "Alex, we need to talk now, so have a seat." Guiding him to a chair in the living room. And so began the family meeting between myself, Robert, and Alex. First, Robert explained how Violet had been arrested. The story was so terrible that Alex wore a look of disbelief. However, seeing my emaciated appearance, the disarrayed house, and the video evidence forced Alex to accept the harsh reality. Is it really true? That Violet did this to Mom? Frozen in shock, Alex stared at the smartphone screen, prompting Robert to gently offer him a cup of coffee. Silence lingered for what seemed like minutes. Alex finally glanced at me and gulped down the now cold coffee in one go. Then, he turned to me and said, "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't notice it until it had gotten this bad. Alex, it's not your fault. Don't be so sorry. No, it's my fault. Living together and what Violet did was my mistake. If only I had been more determined. Alex murmured weakly, fighting back tears. Alex, there's no use in brooding. You have Tyler to think about. Let's focus on what to do next. Tyler, right? I have Tyler. I need to be strong for him. Subsequently, Alex decided to divorce Violet. He also chose to sue her for the domestic violence she inflicted on me. However, believing that my testimony and Robert's video evidence might not be sufficient, Alex and Robert decided to examine Violet's smartphone. They apparently found messages between her and an unknown man. Around the same time, Violet told the police that I was in a relationship with a guy I had been seeing before we moved in together. And as soon as we started living together, things didn't work out. I was lashing out, and I couldn't stop myself. Based on this confession, a search of Violet's phone and room uncovered photos with her lover and a diary detailing her emotional state at the time. He demanded a significant amount of child support and a share of their assets after the divorce. Meanwhile, Robert, Alex, and I filed a joint lawsuit against Violet for domestic violence. A guilty verdict without probation was upheld, ensuring that she would be in police custody for several years. There was no sympathy for Violet, who betrayed her family and repeated her cruel actions. I only hoped that during her time in prison, she would reflect on her actions and repent. After the divorce was finalized, we continued to live together to support Alex, who became a single father. However, my health had deteriorated, so Robert took early retirement to care for me. Thanks to his support, I fully recovered both physically and mentally. Now, I look forward more than ever to picnics on the beach with Tyler. Dad, next time let's go to the beach together. You're right. No longer working alone far away, now I have lots of playtime with you, Tyler. Alex said, hugging Tyler tightly. That reminded me of my husband when he was younger, warming my heart immensely. May Alex find another wonderful woman someday. I continued to secretly hope so in my heart.